you reading it alongside like one of these companion books? Or you're just
I'm not reading it.
Oh,
I read it when it's can't be read. It's like an, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But this is.
That's what I was there.
This is the audio book. You can read this in 90 minutes.
And that one's great.
Yeah, it also has like Spanish.
Isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Because this one
It's
has,
from my union.
Do you
My
want to
union
start
is really ugly
because
politics.
this one like references that.
This one is only, it's like, yeah,
It's like meant to be
perfect. Like every single thing. So if I want to this.
Yeah.
And then I go to. So this is. Yeah, this is.
I only have the big one.
This could be good. At least we're starting.
Like,
I just want them to- The president of the union wants to know how we're going to. Because I want to do that to the end.
And you're like, I don't want to.
I want the bundle,
Yeah.
bundle, and she's like, what's the
Yeah,
citation?
they wanna go.
Robert, I'm like,
Blah, blah, blah.
I wish.
Well, what the answer-
My sister.
Let us know. And you can correct us. Here. I don't know.
Zero to 30. I was really mad about friendly amendments.
Good evening, everyone. We will start with our public hearing chaired by Craig Slutskin. Craig?
Good evening. Thank you, everybody. This is the public hearing of Community Board 5. I'm Craig Slutskin, and I'll be your chair for the public hearing. During the public hearing, members of the public are invited to speak for 2 minutes per person on subjects set forth in the agenda for this public hearing or on any topic that relates to the affairs of the community district. If you'd like to address the board before it votes on any matters tonight, now is your opportunity to do so. Although there will be a public session during the full board meeting later, that public session will be at the end of the meeting after all the votes have taken place. So if you want to address the board on any matters before it votes tonight, now is your time to do so. If you'd like to speak during this public hearing and you're on Zoom, please raise your hand now using the raise hand button. When you're recognized, we'll allow you to speak, but you must unmute yourself. In order for you to be heard, you will have to unmute yourself. So we're going to begin the public hearing. We're going to do it because we do have people in the audience tonight. We're going to start with Evan Robertson. You can come up to the lectern and you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ewan Robertson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Simons Foundation, and we are the applicant for the project that involves building a new conferencing space and a pedestrian sky bridge between our 2 buildings at 160 and 162 Fifth Avenue. I just wanted to take the opportunity to tell those who may not be familiar with us a little bit about the Simons Foundation, to give you a sense of why we want to undertake this project. So we're a private philanthropy. We were set up nearly 30 years ago by Marilyn and Jim Simons. We've been in the Flatiron District for about the last 2 decades, and are very deeply committed to remaining in the district for many, many years to come. We fundamentally do 3 things. We are a major grant maker, and we fund science and scientific research. We do about $350 million a year in grant making to scientists both locally, so in some of the institutions you'll be familiar with, Rockefeller University, NYU, Columbia, nationally, MIT, Berkeley, etc., and internationally as well. Most of those scientists are working on a range of different topics, but the common theme is they're using mathematics and computation. The second thing that we do is we actually do science ourselves. So within these 2 buildings that form our campus, we have about 250 active scientists who are doing research in biology, neuroscience, astrophysics, quantum physics, and mathematics. And we have a very active scientific community within the buildings. And then the third thing that we do, the third part of our mission, really is to engage people in science, certainly to engage other scientists, but also to engage the public and lay people who may not think of themselves as interested in science. And we do a whole range of things to do that. We have a couple of online publications, Quantum Magazine and Spectrum. We have a science documentary film production company and so forth. So we bring thousands of people to our building.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker is also from the audience, Cass Stachelberg. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Cass Stachelberg from Higgins Place Partners working with you and on these two applications. I want to thank the Landmarks Committee for a very robust meeting a few weeks ago. As you may know, the committee recommended unanimous approval for an addition on the roof of 165th Avenue. And in the discussion about the bridge, the committee was split 5 in favor, 9 against. I think it's important to think about the foundation and the institute, and in particular, sort of this moment in time in New York, and how important it is to support groups like Simons and the institute more than ever. And the foundation and the institute are really doing remarkable work. The rooftop addition and the bridge will support and expand the mission of the foundation. From a historical perspective, I think there are a few key things to keep in mind about these applications. The district is made up historically of commercial enterprises. Many of these enterprises, Gordon Taylor, Gillette, Stern, they expanded over time. They expanded laterally, they expanded vertically, and even some of those, particularly Lord & Taylor and Arnold Constable, which were 2 of the largest department stores in the district, actually constructed sky bridges historically. And those are sky bridges actually connecting individual buildings within their blocks. These are full block complexes. So much in the same way that Simons is now trying to achieve the same thing, to expand their mission, to enhance communication and circulation for the programming that they do. The district is also significant for advancements in building technology. I think perhaps one doesn't think so much about that, but obviously thinking about the steel frame and the Flatiron building, one of the most iconic buildings in the world, much less in this district. The proposed bridge that is connecting 160 and 162 also is technologically quite advanced. And I'd say much in the same way that a passerby in 1902 might have seen the steel skeleton rising up for the Flatiron building. You may have seen that as contemporary and futuristic. It's very fitting now in much the same way as the bridges that we're proposing, and we look for your support tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go on to the Zoom. The first speaker from Zoom is Cressida Connolly. You can unmute yourself. And you should be able to speak right now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
You can, thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking for 241 West 36th Street about the proposed dispensary sites at 241 and 229. First off, I just want to note that it's less than 500 feet from a harm reduction site, the ACI chemical dependency site, which I think CB5 has already agreed that they would not put dispensaries that close to a harm reduction site. Second of all, I want to talk about the level of crime that already exists on this block. The 200 block of West 36th Street has seen 96 arrests, 66 for narcotics, something like 100 for other sorts of crime. And we really don't need any more drug activity on the street. Personally, my own children, my son was punched on the way to school by a dealer. My daughter is like terrified to come home at night. When we come home from hockey at night, we sometimes have to walk in the street to avoid the dealers. And the final thing I would say, that I was pretty offended when a real estate agent told us that having a dispensary in our building would make us safer because those people would be armed with guns. And it surprises me to hear Democrats say that guns make us safer, when in fact we all know that guns make children less safe, they make people of color less safe. The rent-a-cops are a danger to any number of people at any time. They're not really qualified. And that finally, the city, after our years of us trying to get the city to help us with drug deals and help us with drug problems on this block, has decided that we now have to, against our wills, become a drug dealer by putting a drug dispensary in the lobby of our building. So, you know, I think there are a lot of people in this building who feel pretty strongly about this. I think you can tell from the tone of my voice that I feel pretty strongly about this. It's been a really long couple of years for us on this block. And we agreed to Weed World becoming a legal dispensary because we were told there would be 1,000-foot proximity protection. And yet Weed World is only 500 feet, less than 500 feet, 475 feet from the proposed sites, 475 from one, 450 from another. And you're already trying to ram more down our throats. So, you know, not happy.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Lynn Goldsmith. Ms. Goldsmith, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi there. Can I be heard? Hi.
Yes, you can. You are, yes, you're coming across
Hi.
very clear.
Yes. I live in the same building, 241 West 36th Street as Cressida. And there have been a number of issues where the security of myself and family members has been threatened. And I just want to reiterate all the things that Cressida has said. And I am a member of the press and authorized with New York City police press credentials, and have gone to the 35th Street office many times because of the problems on our street. I cannot see how having the unit that they're talking about is right there on the street where our front door is. And I cannot understand why the community board could not want to protect all the residents in this building. We're 16 floors. And our continued threats of our safety are really, I think, frightening all of us in terms of increasing that now with another weed world. And I had thought that we agreed our building at some point to allow a legal operator to take over the Weed World location, which is actually on the corner, not like right in our building. And that came with a 1,000-foot proximity exclusion, meaning that more shops could not open up on our block. And I think that also needs to be honored.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments, Ms. Goldsmith. Our next speaker is Thomas Lepre. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I'm a resident also on 36th Street. And I wanted also to voice my opposition to approving the applicants for cannabis retail locations at 229 and 241 West 36th Street. My understanding is that the Office of Cannabis Management guidelines state that for cities with populations over 20,000, dispensaries can't be located within 1,000 feet of another premises that's licensed as an adult use retail dispensary. Both these locations are within 1,000 feet of that recently approved site that's at the corner of 36th and 7th Avenue where Weed World has been located. So I think on that basis alone, CB5 should reject the applications. To the extent you're inclined to improve the applications, despite the fact that they violate OCM guidelines, you shouldn't, for all the reasons that that you've heard so far. That these locations are smack dab in the middle of a bunch of sites that provide harm reduction services for clients who struggle with substance abuse and mental health problems. The ACI on West 36th, the methadone clinic on 35th, the needle exchange on West 37th, the Praxis and Barber House, which has harm reduction services further down on 36th. And yeah, this block has been plagued by drug and abuse problems and crime for years. If you just walk down the block any time of day, really, you'll see, street dealing of fentanyl, heroin, crack, open drug use, all hours of the day. Drug dealers and their friends and their clients, they hang out in front of the deli on the north side of the block on 36. You can't get by them on the sidewalk. You got to go out in the street to get around them. There aren't a lot of votes in this neighborhood. I get that. So the city just tends to cram everything into it that the other neighborhoods don't want. But this is one of the first things visitors see when they come into the city. It's, I think, an embarrassment to the city, and it's a hazard to its residents. I'm not alone as a resident having gotten into physical confrontations to protect myself and my family. So it's not a pleasant place to live, much less raise a family, and it keeps getting worse. And we need a lot of things, but a couple more weed shops is definitely not what we need.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Lepre. Our next speaker is Wei Sang Sheng. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
All right. Wei San Chong, thank you. I'm also a resident at 241 and I've been living here for a number of years, native New Yorker from the Lower East Side. And I have to tell you, when I heard that there was a proposal for more cannabis shops, not only in the building, but as Cressida and most of my neighbors have also said, I want to reiterate, we must honor that 1,000-foot proximity rule, along with the healthcare facilities and recovery institutions in the area. Personally speaking, the visceral disgust of the open needle use and the behavior of these individuals, however unfortunate the situation they may be in, it will only get worse. I have to kick, needles into the street so I can walk my dog. The millions of crack vials and whatnot, the safety aspect of the drug dealers themselves, it is nearly unbearable, and I'm embarrassed on so many levels for our neighbors and for all of us. But we must do something to reduce this, because it is, as my neighbors just said, Thomas, thank you. This is not what we want to project. What most of our income for this neighborhood and for the city at large is predicated upon tourism and bringing good, lucrative businesses. This is not the type of business. It will only lead to, as Cressida said, more gun violence, the discrepancy between state and federal laws, and the necessity to have that much cash on hand, etc. There's already been shootings, stabbings, all kinds of ridiculous things at all hours of the day. And I've only seen it get worse. It literally reminds me of the 70s and 80s on the Lower East Side. And that is really not something we should aspire to.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Cassandra Whitehead. Whitehead, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
You can. Go ahead, please.
My name is Cassandra Whitehead. I'm representing Bridge to Enter Advanced Mathematics, or BEAM. I'm here today to express support for the Simons Foundation's SkyBridge project. BEAM is a partner, collaborator, and a past grantee of the Simons Foundation. We operate STEM summer camps and youth programs to support exceptional students who are also economically disadvantaged and put them on a pipeline to college and career STEM success. Meeting with other STEM grantees in person and having places for peer organizations to gather and learn from each other is really critical work, and really critical in-person work that will be advanced by the SkyBridge project. The Simons Foundation is a leader in the STEM space and also supports the STEM ecosystem by bringing STEM organizations and STEM leaders together. This design of the bridge is elegant and thoughtful and will be an appropriate addition to the historic district. And we're excited for the possibilities for convening and collaboration that this project can help advance and move forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Noel Pena. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I'm actually on the call. I wanted to thank all of the board members, obviously, for all the hard work they do. And I'm here before you on behalf of the residents of 4 West 21st Street to express our resolute opposition to the proposed SkyBridge connecting 160 and 162 Fifth Avenue. Our objection is rooted in fundamental principles that safeguard the essence of our historic neighborhood. Firstly, the proposed SkyBridge lacks architectural compatibility with the original aesthetics of our surroundings. Even if styled similarly, it disrupts the established character of the neighborhood, the area. Secondly, we are deeply concerned about the potential impact of our landmark designation. The addition of structures incongruent with our historic architecture could jeopardize the very essence of the neighborhood's landmark status, affecting the entire community there. Furthermore, the visual impact on our streetscape is undeniable. This alteration would disturb the visual harmony and historic charm that defines the neighborhood, fundamentally altering its character. I think you're going to hear from other residents in the neighborhood tonight. Most importantly, that there is no significant community support for this proposal, especially by the residents of this community. Preserving the neighborhood's historical integrity is paramount, And I urge you, and we urge you, to consider these concerns during your deliberations regarding the Sky Bridge. Lastly, I want to say that the Sky Bridge does not help Simons in any real way, and that the construction issues putting this would be very disruptive to all the residents of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For your comments, our next speaker is Deepika Seni. You should be able to unmute yourself. Welcome to
Hi,
Community Board 5.
everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm
Yes.
speaking in regards to, I'm speaking on behalf of Madison Square Park Conservancy in support of the Simons Foundation proposed rooftop addition and Sky Bridge. We submitted a letter of support, statement of support, but I'm going to read it here today as well. Madison Square Park Conservancy supports the Simons Foundation proposed rooftop addition and Sky Bridge, which would connect their two headquarter buildings. As a nonprofit organization that raises 100% of the funds to operate and program Madison Square Park, we appreciate the value that strong institutions like the Simons Foundation and Flatiron Institute provide to our neighborhood. The Simons Foundation is a catalyst for economic growth and activity in the Flatiron Nomad neighborhood, as well as the city at large, and we know from working with them that they are eager to expand their capacity. They receive thousands of visitors annually for multi-day scientific lectures and workshops, many of which are open to the public, and their hope is to have a larger space that will not only support their mission, but also accommodate community uses such as the Conservancy's horticulture programs. As community partners, the Simons Foundation has worked with our horticulture team to bring scientists into the park to lead free public programs. Last spring, they partnered with us on programming for our Geometry of Flowers exhibition, and they will host viewing opportunities in the park during the upcoming solar eclipse in April 2024. With respect to the proposed additions, the Simons Foundation invited a number of neighborhood institutions, including Madison Square Park Conservancy, on tours of their building and have taken strides to educate us about the design and why the expansion is needed. We realize that additions like this, and in particular a Sky Bridge, and particularly when impacting a historic neighborhood, are subject to close scrutiny, but we do feel that the rooftop addition respects the existing building and that the Sky Bridge would not detract from the historic character of our neighborhood. They've chosen materials that work beautifully with each building's unique historical architecture and that are visually appealing in nature. After reviewing the Simons Foundation proposal and understanding their mission-oriented needs and the justification for the expansion and design choices, the Conservancy supports their proposal for a rooftop addition and Sky Bridge and hopes Community Board 5 will vote to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Our next speaker is Megan Driscoll. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Megan Driscoll, and I'm speaking as a resident of 4 West 21st Street against the Sky Bridge. I am also a born and raised New Yorker and a small business owner here in the city. And while it sounds like the Simons Foundation is a wonderful place that does a lot of admirable work, I don't really understand why there needs to be a Sky Bridge. You know, I had to save up for years to be able to afford purchasing my apartment. And I know a lot of the residents in my building are in the same boat. And having a Sky Bridge that one is an eyesore and two could potentially kind of harm like our community and tilt it to a place where we no longer have residents and we just have, as someone earlier said, lots of tourists and visitors, I think risks turning us into Midtown where no one really wants to live anymore. And I think Fifth Avenue is just such an important character and street and part of what makes New York great. And so to just modify that in a way that might change the historical significance of our street is very upsetting and disturbing to me. So, and also I don't live on West 36th Street, but I also support you guys. And because that also sounds like a terrible decision, and the community board, I think, should represent the actual residents that live in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Driscoll. Our next speaker is Peter Orland. You should be able to unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, thanks. I'm a physicist, and I don't have strong feelings about the Sky Bridge, but I love the Simons Center and the Simons Foundation. But I just wanted to say that I live on 241 West 36th Street, and just one point that perhaps should be also added to what other people have said is that this precinct has the highest crime rate in the last year of all of New York City. So we heard not long ago from some people at the 35th Street station that there were 6,500 arrests in this district. And all of this is related to the dealing and the drug trafficking, from what I've heard. The second most highest crime rate district is actually the one just north of us. Now, this isn't just in Manhattan, it's all of New York City. And so I think we all feel very, very frustrated because people in this area feel that the city and everyone said that the city council, the state government has been completely tone deaf as to the problems we've had here. That's pretty much all I wanted to add. I think everyone else was very eloquent in what they said. So that's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Ken Metz. Mr. Metz, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello. I also live at 241 West 36. We moved in approximately 2 years ago during COVID or just after COVID. I have 2 children, and I'm completely opposed to the dispensaries being located in our building or on our block. I mean, the CB5's own rules say you cannot open a dispensary within 500 feet of a harm reduction facility. And there is one that's about 150 feet away. You know, we've also had just an unending amount of drug dealing on our block. And, you know, every day we see people doing drugs, shooting up, passing out. I had one instance where I called, there was someone who had passed out on our right in front of our building on the sidewalk. And I called the ambulance for this person, and they had to give him Narcan. And it's just, you know, I don't understand why you would put a dispensary that close to a treatment facility. That's like putting a candy store next to, you know, a playground. It just doesn't make any sense. And I just plead with you to just consider this and consider those of us who live on this block. I've listened to people walking down the block who work on the block, and they don't even want to work on this block because of all of the drug dealing and the drug dealers on the block. It's just an unending cycle that we have to stop, and the dispensaries are not going to help. So I hope you will consider to vote against the dispensaries on our block. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have one more speaker, but before we do, this will be your last chance. If you have not spoken already as a member of the public and you wish to, please use the raise hand feature. We have Lisa Wager. Lisa, you should be able to unmute yourself. Welcome back.
Hi, thanks. I'm Lisa Wager, Director of Government Community Relations at the Fashion Institute of Technology, the SUNY College on West 27th Street. I'm here to share a few FIT updates. Postmodernism, Irony and Contradiction opened last week in the Art and Design Gallery in the Pomerantz Center. That's the glass box at the corner of 27th and 7th. This curated exhibition showcases the work of 25 second-year associate degree fashion design students as they celebrate the eclectic and subversive spirit of the postmodernism movement by focusing on its ironic and contradictory aspects. In particular, there's much deconstructing the notion of good and bad taste and high and low fashion. 4 prominent guest critics from the fashion design industry, selected critic award winners, and those as well as many other looks are in the exhibition. It's a lot of fun, and of course, the talent and skill with just 3 semesters of instruction are stunning. The show runs through January 31st, so bring your friends and family in town for the holidays, give them a peek at the future stars, and another reason to know that New York City is indeed the creative capital of the world. The exhibition is free and open to the public, and the gallery is open every day from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you're taking a stroll through the theater district, as in part of the CB5 district, then be sure to drop by the Museum of Broadway on 45th between 6th and 7th for a captivating display by FIT Spatial Experience Design BFA Rising Stars. 11 talented students have taken the spotlight, transforming 2 entrance windows into stunning exhibits featuring meticulously crafted facades, graphics, draping mannequins, and a festive cake and champagne arrangement in celebration of the museum's 1-year anniversary. And if you're wandering further afield outside the district, You can enjoy window displays by FIT alumni Amy Henry, who was a visual presentation and exhibition design in 01 at CO Bigelow in the West Village. That's, you probably know, on 6th Avenue at 9th Street. And by alumni Polar Birasanati, who was also a visual presentation and exhibition design, but from 08, at the Harney and Sons Tea Shop on Broome Street. Don't miss out. These holiday windows are on display until January. Best wishes for festive, restorative, and tasty holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Good to hear from you. Our last speaker from the public hearing will be Luca Bizzi. You should be able to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi. I live at 241 West 36th Street. I'm a new tenant, and I too oppose to the opening of the new dispensary on 36th Street. I want to say that as a new tenant in the neighborhood, I'm kind of shocked by how difficult it's been to find solutions to a problem that is under everybody's eyes. I think that, in order to get back the city that we all want, a city that is based on retail businesses opening and little bars and pleasant places where everybody can enjoy basically, a normal neighborhood, we need to get rid of these structural issues that unfortunately have plagued and keep plaguing the neighborhood in which we live. I went to show the new apartment to my kids. We came downstairs, opened the door of the lobby. There was a person with a needle in his hand, passed out in front of the building. It was 3 p.m. when kids get out of school. I think that as a community board, one of the biggest and most important responsibilities is to listen to the not complaints, to the concerns of the citizens that populate your neighborhoods and help them improve the way in which they live and the way in which they do business. I'm a businessman. We own multiple locations of furniture store in the city. We manage an international company. And honestly speaking, it's not a good ticket to come to a city and see what we see on a daily basis. We hope that you really listen to what we're saying, and we hope that you can give us your help in solving a situation that unfortunately has been like this for quite a while. We all deserve to see an end to this, and we hope to get your help. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And that concludes the public hearing. I give the meeting back to Chair Athanael.
Thank you, Craig. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nick Athanael, First Vice Chair. I will now open the full board meeting of Manhattan Community Board 5. We'll start our full board meeting by hearing from any elected officials that are in attendance and wish to address the board. The elected officials will be followed by any representatives of other electeds who may report to the board for 2 minutes each. The board then enters into its business session, which tonight consists of the chair's report, committee reports, resolutions, a question and comment period, and voting. Comments or questions from either applicants or the public, or if additional information is needed, are only allowed with the chair's approval. We will then conduct a public session, which is not a question and answer session, but it's for members of the public who would like to apprise the board of any item that they did not speak to the board about during the public hearing. The public session is followed by any other business, and tonight before we adjourn, an adjournment. After adjournment of the full board meeting, I will be calling an executive session of only board members to consider a personnel matter for CB5. I'll start this evening's meeting calling on elected officials to either come to the podium if in attendance, or by using the raised hand feature if attending remotely. So far, I see Assemblymember Epstein, Councilmember Rivera, Senator Krueger, and Senator Gonzalez. If there's anyone else, please raise your hand to let me know. And we'll start with Senator Krueger.
Thank you so much. Hello, Community Board 5. I'm sorry I can't be there in person tonight, but we're all mastering this Zoom and in-person model. Of course, I hope everyone knows of Alex Marinatis, who's from my office and represents me at Community Board 5 and already keeps me abreast of the issues that you are concerned about. To be honest, I was fascinated to hear of all the concerns around some specific legal marijuana shops applications. I do understand that there's been an overwhelming number of applications for this district. And of course, that's too many stores. And yes, there are laws about how many legal weed stores can be within X distance of each other and within X distance of places like schools and daycare centers, etc. Now, I just want to clarify. People have been talking about Weed Works. That is an illegal store. That has been closed several times, working with the Sheriff's Department and the Office of Cannabis Management. And unfortunately, they are very aggressive about choosing to continue to reopen and have been an exceptionally difficult company. They will not get a legal license to remain there. And the truth is, the sooner we get legal stores who are going to follow the law into communities, the more rapidly we will see a decrease in the number of illegal stores. And that has been the story throughout the country as people move from an illegal world to a legal world. You know, I did not know of the community board's position on whether weed stores can be specifically within a certain distance of other drug treatment programs or models. So I will definitely take that back and look into that for you, because state laws don't always jive with local laws, and we have to deal with those questions. I will say, just because of, I think, a little confusion, there's no reason to believe that the legal cannabis stores will have guns or even the need for guns. It's the fact that these illegal stores are in fact selling to children, are selling illegal products, are probably funded through negotiations with cartel actual drug dealers, that we're seeing so many additional crime problems affiliated with them. I also just want to, for the record, point out that while drug addiction is a mental health and tragic issue, cannabis is proven to be less addictive than liquor and cigarettes, which are both legal to sell. So I'm not urging everybody to go out and start using cannabis. I don't use the product myself. I don't even like the product. But the fact that there will be some cannabis stores throughout the city of New York, just like there are quite a few bars, restaurants, and liquor stores in your community, should not reflect an increase in addictive, dangerous drug usage, because that has actually not been found. Just the opposite in medical research. When people have legal cannabis options and medical cannabis options, we see a reduction in opioid use and other far more dangerous drugs. But I'm happy to talk to anybody about those things whenever anyone wishes. And yes, we are coordinating with NYPD and the mayor's office. I think you have a representative from the mayor's office who say they have a new plan to try to close the illegal stores as quickly as possible. I'm totally on board with anything that will get these stores padlocked as quickly as possible, because you can go in, you can do a raid, you can take the product, but if you can't actually lock the store down, they tend to open up 2 days later and deal with deciding how much they'll have to pay in court. But if they're making so much money illegally, they don't care about the fines, even though we made the fines up to $20,000 per day per store. We have actual owners of these stores saying, so what, that's nothing compared to what I can make. I know that community board 5 members have also voiced real concern about the closing of Beth Israel Hospital, and I have several other colleagues on this meeting tonight who are technically the legislators overseeing. I'm just the nearby one, so I'll let them talk about what they've been doing and what we've all been doing to try to ensure adequate access to hospital services, frankly, from 23rd Street South in Manhattan Island, and real concerns about that. I don't want to take too much time. I hope everybody is on my email updates list. And if you're not, please think about doing so. I think the board members get it, but you just go on Liz's list. We do send out quite a bit of information by email. And guess what? If you want to delete it, I will never know or be offended. And no trees were killed and no postage was paid. So feel free to not read my emails, even if you get them, but I hear back from a lot of people that they find them very, very useful because we try to make them seriously substantive with lots and lots of information. And I think I will be quiet and I will take questions if the board chair wishes me to or not, as the board decides.
Senator, I want to thank you especially for your support regarding cannabis. We've been in touch with your office already. We've had calls with Alex. And as you can see from the public comment tonight, there's really a lot of work left to be done on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Gonzalez, would you like to speak to the board?
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here. I want to thank Senator Krueger also for her incredible leadership on cannabis. I can say from the state Senate perspective, we actually just had a retreat, and you are well represented, and these views are well represented as we as a state figure out what to do with enforcement and in additional support for the actual legal shops, of whom only 27 legal shops exist today. But it feels very good to be here. I also wanted to say happy holidays to everyone. Our office is still very much open through the end of the year. We are here to support in any way possible. Please come visit us. We are on 42nd and 2nd Avenue. And we are currently in the process of getting geared up for the new year, where we have a lot of new fights, some of which you've already heard about today. But I definitely want to highlight a few for this board, including the fight around, as Senator Krueger mentioned, Mount Sinai Beth Israel. So as many of you know, this is a proposal to close this location that is in my district by July. The elected officials representing the area, myself included, we formed a coalition and today actually had a rally to oppose this closure plan, as well as oppose the steady cutting of services that we've seen over the course of the last year that are continuing to happen and will continue to happen between now and next July. So this will be, an incredible effort that we'll need from this community to ensure that we're not reducing service, and that when we say healthcare is a right, that we're actually living that value and putting pressure on the Department of Health to not approve this plan, to reject this proposal to close. There will be additional community engagement sessions. As many of you know, the last community engagement session was not well, was well attended, but was not well planned by MSBI, and we heard a lot of those concerns. We're making sure to advocate for the next one to, allow anyone who would like to go, and also to, provide you all with advance notice. A couple of other quick things, because I do not want to take too much time, that I would like to highlight. I am having in January a town hall around the casino proposal. I know many of you, a lot of neighbors I've spoken to, are very concerned about this proposal. Our office is also concerned for the casino proposal. And, the developers are saying they have thousands of residents here in support of it, but we're having a town hall to see how you all feel, but also to talk through some of those incredible concerns with putting a casino so close to the United Nations. So please, would love to have you join us, and we'll share information with the board. And then finally, would like to highlight the work that our office is doing around housing and around artificial intelligence, two things that we'll be taking up the next session. We've been working with the borough president and Assemblymember Boris on artificial intelligence. So for anyone who's interested in that, please reach out. More to come on introduced legislation. I will stop there, but happy to take any questions that you all may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Assemblymember Epstein, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
I have to go after Kristen and Liz, so that's a double whammy. So hope you're all well and enjoying the holiday season. It's really joyful. I just left my temple, East End Temple. We live in Menorah and just kind of find the joyful moments in time where we're living in really difficult times, to be honest. It's I guess I'm not sure in society what we've people live through wonderful times, but this doesn't feel like one of those moments. So I think you need to find joy where you can. So I know Kristen just mentioned Beth Israel. I know Councilmember Rivera is here as well. Talk more about this fight to save Beth Israel Hospital. We had a great rally today with hundreds of people talking about what we need to do to save Beth Israel. We, obviously it impacts this board as well, the other boards in Lower Manhattan, to lose one of the only full service hospitals below 23rd Street. And so it's going to have negative impacts on so many people. So whatever we can do to keep that hospital open. I know we talked a lot about illegal cannabis. Yesterday, Councilwoman Rivera, Senator Kavanaugh, and I had a press conference talking about all the illegal shops that are in the neighborhood and trying to figure out what we need to do to, as Senator Krueger said, to make sure we padlock all the illegal locations. It's just hurting the city, it's hurting the system. Crime is happening in the illegal shops. We've seen rising crime in all the illegal locations. We just really need to get them shut down. So if we need to do anything and change state law, I know Senator Gonzalez and Senator Krueger, I think we're all on board trying to get those padlocked. I'm not trying to criminalize people, but we don't want people to sell it illegally. If I opened up a liquor store illegally, that would be closed down in a week. It's like you don't get the SLA permit. It's not coming before you, it's closed. I don't understand how cannabis operates in a different space. So we need better enforcement. Hosting an e-waste event on January 7th at Union Square. People, it's in our newsletter. Kathleen from my team is back here. She's put the newsletter in the chat. Hopefully people can, if they have e-waste, it's better to drop it off at an e-waste event that we're doing. We're also having a town hall. I know Senator Gonzalez mentioned the casino at First Avenue. We're having a town hall on a bunch of issues in the neighborhood. That's on January 18th. We're happy to have you join us. We're just a couple of weeks ago, we did a great turkey drive for low-income families. We gave away 1,700 turkeys for families, which obviously there's so many people in need. And what's really important for us as we head into the legislative session just in a couple of weeks in January, to hear what your priorities are from us. I know both Senator Gonzalez and Senator Krueger, as well as my assembly colleagues who aren't here right now, but I know they would love to hear what you think we should be focusing on. We've heard some of the issues tonight. But the more we hear from you, I know we've heard a lot about our remote meetings, whether it's from the rights of community boards have or a community education council have, be able to do things remotely versus to be in person. This balance we need to figure out. I think there's something that we're going to be taking up in Albany next year. We're obviously going to deal with something around the cannabis and making sure that's resolved. We have a housing portfolio of things we're going to be dealing with, whether it's the commercial to residential issue, the 12 FAR. All these issues are going to be on the table next year. So as much as we can hear back from you about what your priorities are and what we should be pushing for, it's just really helpful for us and it guides our work. And so the last thing is when there are other priorities in the neighborhood, that's really important. Like we heard recently from Madison Square Park that they needed a new fence for the park itself. We were able to allocate $250,000 in capital dollars to fix the fence. So when like community needs, those things are coming out, really important to share with us as well as like Senate and council colleagues, because sometimes we can find those capital dollars to help allocate for our community. And wish everyone a happy holiday. And again, like everyone else, if you've got a question, I'm happy to take it. Otherwise, I'm happy to hand it over to my next colleague.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you all. Councilmember Rivera, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Well, this is the report. I encourage you to read it. Liz was very kind and saying you don't have to read hers, but I'm going to say you should read mine. We really do try. We put a lot of effort into the reports to try to summarize what we do, and clearly this only sort of skims the surface, but try to make it very relevant to this district and to this community board. I will say there is an issue that we kind of touched on that I think really touches all of the local community boards, and that would be the migrant crisis and the homelessness that we're seeing out on our streets, specifically CB5, and how you are host to probably more shelters, beds, and respite centers than any other community district in the city. You're one of the largest. And so we're really trying to manage that influx of people. It is seen in other places in the city, clearly. There are shelters all over the city. But what we're seeing right now in Community Board 3, outside of a former school, St. Bridget, is 1,000 people at a time every single day looking for just a bed. And so whether they're sent all the way to JFK or to a hotel in Midtown, it really is just affecting just everyone's quality of life, small businesses, just the overall energy of the city and how draining it is. It's affecting our school system in terms of the families and the students that are in the school that have really a lot of needs in terms of English as a second language and that socio-emotional needs that they have as well in terms of the trauma that they've experienced. So we've held multiple hearings in the council on this, one specifically on schools, one on housing. We've also been to St. Bridget multiple times to try to understand, from a 30,000-foot view, it looks like there's a system. Someone gets a number, they come back, they talk to a city official, and then they get a cot. But it really is not that simple. And so you are seeing more people out on the streets, sleeping in the train. You can only go and get a new bed on the 31st day of homelessness. And so it's not quite working. So I know you feel it, you see it, and though it feels like one of the most tragic moving targets we've ever experienced, just know that we really are trying our best to address it. And on the cannabis shops, two things that we're actually doing in the council. One is we did pass a bill that took effect a couple of months ago to increase the fines for illegal cannabis shops. That's at $10,000 a fine. So that has already gone into effect. We will need our agencies, NYPD, to really be a stakeholder in this and come together. And so there's that, and a bill that was introduced that has not been passed that I am co-sponsoring that would declare these shops a public nuisance, and that would actually allow those padlocks to get on the doors. So while there is the legal market and protecting that, and I would say the spirit and the integrity of the bill that was written in an unprecedented way than any other place in the country, we also have this issue that feels like it's out of control. I was hoping it was going to go away, like those places that were making the meals, or like the dark stores. I was hoping this was kind of like a fad, but it really does seem to be holding on. And so whether it's working with the sheriff, Tony Miranda, who's a really good guy and is really trying to address, go to as many locations as possible, we are focusing on that 500-foot rule for those that are close to a religious institution or school. Cannot speak to the harm reduction center. I'm pretty sure we have a legal location on East 3rd Street across from BRC, which is the Bowery Residence Committee, which is actually a harm reduction location. So I'm eager to hear back from the state as to whether that's something that's actually codified. Yeah, today we had a rally. I organized a rally from Mount Sinai Beth Israel. Everyone was there, including representatives of every single elected official in the area. It's a united front. No one wants to hear a hospital is closing in their neighborhood. No one. So I think it's pretty simple that we have to retain as many medical services as possible. Just south of 23rd Street, there are 400,000 New Yorkers. Should this location close, that is one hospital south of 23rd Street. I realize that we have some uptown, but in terms of equity, one bed per 1,000 people south of 14th Street, it's really going to overburden other locations, including our public system, which is already so strained at capacity that just earlier today, I did a diaper drive to bring diapers to the pediatric and neonatal unit, because not only are the people there receiving city services as they always do, but Bellevue Hospital is seeing such a large population of migrant families with small children and babies that they are just, like first thing busting at the seams here. But with that, I do want to tell you that I feel incredibly thankful to do this work and grateful and honored to be in this space, as I have been since I was a rep for my predecessor. So I want to thank you all for how thoughtful you are, for everyone that gave testimony. I want everyone to be proud and feel safe in their community. And I want to wish you all a very, very happy holiday. Thank you for your work.
Thank you, Councilmember. Did I miss any elected officials? Any other elected officials with us tonight that would like to address the board? Okay, we now invite representatives of elected officials to speak with us. If you'd like to do so, let me know that you're here, or use the raise hand button now. And we will start with Lori H.
Hi, good evening, CB5. Lori from Councilmember Eric Bottcher's office. I just want to make a quick note in relation to this cannabis notification on the agenda tonight. I know that Franklin Richards from CM Power's office mentioned last month intro 1243. which may be relevant to mention again tonight. Councilmember Bottcher is also a sponsor. This bill would amend the nuisance abatement law to clarify that the distribution for selling at wholesale or retail or delivering to consumers of any cannabis without the appropriate registration, license, or permit issued by New York State is a public nuisance subject to permanent and preliminary injunctions. So quickly, a couple of items for tonight. I just want to raise the issues surrounding pedicabs. We know pedicabs become problematic in our district. To that end, the council member wrote a letter to the commissioners of Consumer and Worker Protection, NYPD, and DEP regarding his concern for the current state of regulation enforcement. The impact of pedicabs, particularly in relation to Broadway theaters in our residential neighborhoods, has prompted an immediate call for action to improve the regulation of these vehicles. Pedicabs must adhere to the same noise levels as personal audio devices as outlined in the New York City Noise Code. Our office has also been contacted about numerous instances of overcharging and exploitation, particularly targeting tourists. Before a passenger enters a pedicab, the driver is required to provide an information card that lists the rate per ride. Eric requested that all stakeholders work together to develop and implement effective solutions that will ensure the responsible operation of pedicabs while protecting the interests of constituents and visitors. And finally, on a happier note, please join us for caroling on Monday, December 18th at 5 o'clock. We'll be joined by the New York City Gay Men's Chorus at Matthews Palmer Playground, 445 West 45th Street between 9th and 10th Avenues. You're welcome to come and sing with us or just listen, and we will have songbooks provided. Thank you and happy holidays to all.
Thank you, Lori. Next up, Brian McNamara.
Hi, folks. This is Brian McNamara, Chief of Staff to New York State Assemblymember Alex Borres for the 73rd District. We'll keep this brief because I know we all want to get back to our families as we're in the holiday season. First off, the Assemblymember just had a bill passed into law by the state legislature and the Assembly this year, signed into law. This makes 5 out of the 6 bills that we've passed through both chambers signed. The bill removes a requirement which was hindering the ability of New York State to find and through apprentice new optometrists. For those who don't know, the number of optometrists statewide in New York State is about 4,000. That is too low for a population as vast as ours statewide. That said, that bill has been signed into law. We thank the governor for doing so. We have 1 bill outstanding, which has just gone to the governor's desk. More on that at our next update. But the short there is that we were adding 20 judges across New York City and state. And we're really proud to have that and make sure that we're dealing with some of the court backlog that we have at present across our system. The Assembly member has been active across the district for the holidays, going to countless tree lightings and menorah lightings. We've also just hosted our first shredding event uptown with Senator Jose Serrano. Thank you to the New York City Department of Sanitation. We were able to help our neighbors shred just over 1 ton of paper. The Assembly member, as a computer scientist by trade, has participated in several fruitful discussions on artificial intelligence and policy related to such, including an event we just hosted at Temple Emmanuel. And last but not least, from the Assembly member, just sharing a note he wrote, which is just a happy holidays to you all, and specifically for those celebrating tonight as we come to the close of Hanukkah, Chag Sameach. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Brian. Next up, Franklin Richards.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Just some quick updates for the night. Councilmember Powers is happy to announce that last week the New York City Council passed a Stop Spreading the Noise Act, a package of bills he introduced with his colleagues in relation to the issue of noise. This legislation will help establish an innovative noise camera program to ticket excessively loud vehicles and will reform the 3-on-1 noise complaint process to improve enforcement and transparency for residents who file complaints. I will be posting the link to that press release in the chat box in a moment. And just a second update, our holiday coat and toy drive is ongoing, and we're encouraging anyone who can donate to please donate. New and lightly used coats of all sizes can be dropped off at Carnegie Hill Neighbors Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Their office is located on the ground floor of 1326 Madison Avenue, that's 94th and Madison. Toys can be donated online via Amazon, and we will deliver it directly to Room to Grow, who will distribute it to families in need. I will also post that link in the chat, and I will pass it on to Marisa as well to send out. I won't take up any more time going over the bills that were just discussed earlier. I just want to wish you all, as everyone has already said, a happy and healthy and safe holiday with your loved ones. Take care.
Thank you, Franklin. Next up, Rocco Rosenberg.
One minute. Hi, everyone. Happy holidays. Sorry, my light's a little bit funny, but happy holidays. It's good to see everyone, and congratulations on a year well done. I hope you're all very proud of all the work that we've done and everything that we've accomplished together over the last year. And with me, I guess, over the last few months, but with the borough president for longer. I want to thank everyone who joined us in distributing much needed food to families for Thanksgiving. It was just a while ago now, but since our last meeting, our office held numerous events across the borough. We gave out hundreds of turkeys and over 10,000 pounds of produce and groceries to those in need. We also hosted a leadership training series that was very successful a few weeks ago with many trainings on topics across the government field. And we had over 400 participants over the course of a week or so. We also just today had a hearing surrounding open meetings law to get feedback from people on how it's been going and what people want to see in terms of the state's decisions on virtual and hybrid meetings going forward. So we're going to be compiling all that feedback and passing that on to the state. So thank you everyone that came out. I know a lot of you here did come out today to our office, so we really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have a good future with that, given all the feedback that we've gotten. And we have a lot of other things looking forward to in the coming year. So I'm very excited to be able to share all of that with you soon. And thank you all for a wonderful year. Happy holidays.
Thank you, brother. Hannah, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Wienerman from Congressman Jerry Nadler's office. So first, I want to acknowledge that a year ago yesterday, President Biden signed the Respect for Marriage Act, sponsored by Congressman Nadler, into law. This historic legislation protects the rights of same-sex and interracial couples to marry who they love. Congressman Nadler, along with Congress members Dan Goldman and Jamie Raskin, introduced a resolution to commit Congress to implementing the U.S. national strategy to counter anti-Semitism, to counter the alarming rise in anti-Semitic hate across the country, even felt here in New York City. The resolution calls on Congress to fully implement the national strategy in anti-Semitism and Republicans' defunding of the Educational Department's Office of Civil Rights for Title VI enforcement to protect Jewish students and increase funding for the high-risk nonprofit grant program to secure Jewish institutions. Congressman Nadler also signed on to a letter led by Congresswoman Kathy Manning to the university boards of Harvard, MIT, and Penn, asking for a review of their codes of conduct to ensure Jewish students and faculty are safe. And as was mentioned, Congressman Nadler joined with the local elected officials to oppose both the closure of Mount Sinai Beth Israel Hospital in the summer of 2024 and a steady rejection of some critical services as soon as mid-December. The closure of one of the last remaining hospitals serving Lower Manhattan will only exacerbate the insufficient access to healthcare that many residents already face. So I will stop it there. Happy holidays and thanks for having me. Take care.
Thank you, Hannah. Next up, Robin Forst. Robin, we can't hear you. No. 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 Why don't you check your sound settings? We'll come back to you. Curtis, you're up next. Curtis Young?
Yes. Hello. How are you all this evening? Just give me one. Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Curtis Young, the Manhattan Borough Advocate in the Office of the Public Advocate Jumaane Williams. I will be very brief because I know you all are looking forward to continuing your agenda for this evening. First of all, I want to just give you a few updates. Our team has compiled a 3-part series on the Inflation Reduction Act. where we've shared resources for homeowners and renters and information on how the IRA can be helpful to New Yorkers and help them save money during this season. And you can read more about our series on our blog site, advocate.nyc.gov, and click on Inflation Reduction Act. Also, following the most recent updates on the budget, our office has been working to protect essential services. These broad cuts, we believe, will be harmful to communities. The Public Advocate has been pushing the administration to ensure the city upholds its fiscal responsibilities and moral responsibility at the same time. Additionally, we joined our colleagues in government today to protest and stand in solidarity with the community downtown, standing up against the closure of Mount Sinai Beth Israel. A few other announcements for next week. We are hosting a faith-secured House of Worship Safety Forum on December 18th. You can find out more on our website at faithsecure.eventbrite.com. And the last two things I'll share is that we are continuing our monthly series, Ask the Advocate, on News 12, where you're able to ask questions directly to the advocate each month. And also, we've added another live series called Listen to Caribbean Power, JM Radio. Each month, the Public Advocate will be being interviewed long form and covering issues across the city. And callers can also join by calling in to pose questions directly. Other than that, I think that's it. Have a happy holiday season, what's left of it, and we look forward to seeing you all in January. Thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. Robin, any luck?
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. Sorry. I had said that I would be quick. I know it's a long agenda tonight and there have been a lot of speakers. I just wanted to note that New York City is the first city on the East Coast to transition all its heavy-duty fleet vehicles to renewable fuel. By the end of the fiscal year 24, all of these large trucks, garbage trucks, ambulances will run on renewable diesel, which is much more environmentally friendly than the fossil fuel diesel as we know it. Second, I wanted to mention that the mayor has put a big emphasis on mental health, treatment of mental health, and there's a list of the 100 most people most in need of mental health services, and 50 of that 100 have been have received help in the form of housing or supportive care or hospital care, which is a good thing because many don't want to accept services. So it's an ongoing effort. It's not an easy task, but it's something that is making progress. The other thing I know, Senator Krueger talked about I think it was Senator Krueger made a discussion about the city cracking down on illegal smoke shops. The focus of that is landlords, and landlords in the 50 largest, most profitable stores have now generated $7 million in fines for the city. With that, I will say happy holidays to everyone and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Robin. Ben, you're up next.
Hi, everyone. Happy holidays. So as the year comes to an end, Assemblymember Simone is proud to announce that he has introduced 27 bills, 6 passed in the Assembly, 6 passed in both houses, and 5 have so far been signed into law by Governor Hochul. He's proud to have co-sponsored over 300 bills that will improve the lives of New Yorkers, including reproductive freedom, healthcare for retirees, helping student loan borrowers, defending our democratic system, and more. A huge thank you to the constituents who have called and emailed our office with your point of view on legislation and community issues. Earlier this month, Assemblymember Simone was a keynote speaker at the West Side Tenants Conference, where residents from all over New York City came together to learn about tenant organizing and how to protect themselves from bad landlords. New York City is in the middle of an affordability crisis, and housing is the most salient part of that crisis for most people. More now than ever, everyday New Yorkers can no longer afford to live here. and many low and middle income people are leaving. That's why the state must pass critical tenant protections like good cause eviction and expand right to counsel statewide. We also have a responsibility to increase the supply of housing, because when there's more availability, prices will go down for everyone. The Penn Station Community Advisory Committee Working Group came together 2 weeks ago, where we considered the future of the public realm in the Penn Station area. The Assembly member was pleased that this meeting was held publicly. You can read the materials presented at the meeting by ESD online. The CACWAG includes various stakeholders from the community who take part in responding to Empire State Development's plans for the neighborhood around Penn. It's clear that there's still more work to be done to find a way forward that works for everyone. Assembly member Simone believes that the future of Penn must include through running, averting demolition of the block south of the station while creating a more efficient transportation hub for everybody. I look forward to continuing to work with all of our partners on this important project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. We will now open the business session with approval of the November 2023 full board minutes. May I have a motion? And a second? Second. Take a vote.
Kalis,
Yes.
Monroe is absent. Lothar, Blake, Gordon, Brosnahan is yes. Chu? Yes. Delisle,
Yes.
Dosen, Ellington,
Yes.
Ford, Chris,
Yes.
Garcia, Gartland,
Yes.
Gotto,
Yes.
Haas, Pater, Harris,
Yes.
Hirschberg, Hutton. Yes. Isaac.
I'm here.
Payback. Oh, Isaac?
Yep.
No, that was Hirschberg.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Payback,
Yes.
Kalafarsky.
Yes.
Kinsella.
Yes.
Lavangia.
Yes.
Lakisico.
Yes.
Levy.
Yes.
Mafia.
Yes.
Marks.
Yes.
McCall. Miller.
Yes.
Nazaro.
Yes.
Noti Victor.
Yes.
Nye.
Yes.
Rivas.
Yes.
Shapiro. Sherburne. Okay, Sigmund,
Yes.
Slutskin,
Yes.
Southworth,
Yes.
Sung. Takahashi Real,
Yes.
Webb. Shu,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
you. Zolkowitz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I've got 2 items on the chair's report tonight. First, I want to thank Sachi for organizing our coat drive. If you brought a coat tonight to donate, there's a place for you to leave it in the back. If you didn't bring a coat with you tonight, but you still wanted to donate one, please reach out to Sachi. She'll give you some instructions. Second, I bring greetings from our chair, Vicky Barbero. I spoke with her yesterday. Her recovery from knee replacement surgery is going well. Her rehab is a little bit more challenging than she expected, but she's working hard on it. She hopes to be back on her feet literally in a couple more weeks, so she may be attending our next full board meeting. But until then, she says hello and that she misses you all. Next up will be our committee reports, starting with the state licenses and permits. I'm going to switch hats.
Okay, I'm taking over.
SLAP has 2 resolutions for you tonight. May I have them deemed read? So Dean, and I'd like to bundle.
Yes.
First up, 125 East 54th Street is an application for a new on-premises liquor license. You may be familiar with this premises. If you've been on the board long enough, you've heard about lots of issues with this location. And the operator is now back. The applicant is the same legal entity that was in operation of the premises when it was so problematic. The main principle is still the same. He's brought in some other people, and I'm not sure if they're members of the LLC or just proposed managers or whatever, but they're not really independent third parties anyway, no matter who they are. One of them, the main guy is, that he described themselves as, longtime friends over 20 years, buddy. So they're not really making any new fresh management decisions. Besides that, though, the new parties have no demonstrable restaurant experience. So we didn't really think that they had any credibility whatsoever. You can read through the resolution. It's got a litany of issues that we've had with their assaults and police activity. My favorite thing about this operation was that they had their security guards dressed up as SWAT teams with batons and pepper spray. It was really quite a scene. We have support from elected officials against this operation. There's been SLA disciplinary hearings. We tried negotiating with this operator early on before things got this bad. They flouted all of our stipulations and really became a nightmare. The residents are understandably very concerned. There's a residential building immediately next door. They were all out in force at the committee meeting with unanimous opposition. And the committee agreed with them, so we voted to deny this 12-0-0-0.
Thank you. Are there any conflicts to the resolution? Are there any questions? Are there any comments? Next resolution, please.
Next up, we reviewed 44 cannabis applications. And the way we do such a bulk review is that we compare the locations with the locations that are permitted under our guidelines. Just to refresh your memory, we require that new applications be 1,000 feet from existing cannabis establishments, 500 feet from a school, 500 feet from a community facility, 200 feet from a house of worship, 500 feet from a harm reduction facility, and for retail establishments, additional requirements, they have to be 500 feet from a park or public space and 1,000 feet from a playground. I'll mention now that in certain respects, our guidelines, our restrictions are more restrictive than the state enforces. So although we are making this recommendation, whether the state, the Office of Cannabis Management supports our findings, it remains to be seen. What we found at committee that there were 2 locations that were compliant and the rest were non-compliant. Since then, we heard from members of the public who did not attend the meeting that the 2 locations that we thought were compliant are actually not compliant because they are within 500 feet of a harm reduction facility that we were not aware of. So I'll need a motion to change the resolution to the extent that it recommends denial unless those 2 otherwise comply with our guidelines, because those 2 no longer are in compliant locations. They will now also be denied. So I'll need a motion to that effect.
I see a motion. Second.
Okay, great. So given that, this will be a resolution to deny all 44 of the applications before us this month. The committee voted unanimously 12-0-0-0 on this resolution.
Thank you. Are there any conflicts to this resolution? Are there any questions? Encore.
Can I move to unbundle the 2, the liquor and the cannabis?
You can vote separately.
Oh, okay.
You can, yeah, when she does the voting, you just say yes on one and no on the other. So it's used, it'll need to unbundle as a result.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Brad.
I just want to say that I will be voting in favor of this because it does meet our guidelines. However, I think we've discussed this before, that I think that, and this resolution I think is pretty indicative of that, which is that our guidelines basically prohibit weed stores from being anywhere in the district because it's all of these violate one of our principles. And so I would like to state my support for us sort of reconsidering or potentially even just mapping out what that looks like so that we can better understand what our actual guidelines look like in sort of three-dimensional space.
Joe.
I will vote yes for this, but going forward, I just want to make sure that
If you can speak a little louder, just because it's the after the meeting out picks it up.
going forward, I'm going to vote any cannabis shop on 36th Street from Broadway to Dwyer or the Canoe, the homeless shelter. 37th Street, similar footprint, and 38th Street, like we heard from the residents of 241, that is the worst crime in all of New York City. We should not be putting cannabis shops in that area. So I will be voting against adding a cannabis shop to that in the future.
Thank you. Encore.
Did I make a comment?
Sure, go ahead.
So when we had the cannabis task force, we got no public comment about that area being problematic or any other areas. Given the information that we've received now that we're starting to review these, I'm getting the impression that maybe we will have to set, like we have restricted licensing areas for liquor licenses, we may have to develop something like that for cannabis licenses. And certainly a neighborhood like that with all of those criteria could qualify for something like that. But that requires a much bigger review. So we may be able to take that up early in the next year.
I'm gonna vote against the cannabis recommendation to deny. First, I echo the concern that virtually every cannabis shop is going to run afoul of these of our guidelines. I think they're too strict. I also want to echo what Senator Krueger said, that if we want to advocate for closure of the illegal cannabis shops, which are a huge problem, we need to crowd them out with legal ones. And so ones that meet the state guidelines, I think we should approve. Thank you.
No.
Just to Nick's point, I've been in support of the decriminalization of marijuana for more than 3 decades. And yet I don't think we found the criteria in which we can successfully have these shops in these neighborhoods. So I think the committee voted correctly. I'm going to vote with the committee.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, let's take it to a vote. And just as a reminder to Encore's point, just because they're bundled, you don't have to vote yes on both or no on both. Just be clear for Mary when she does the roll. Thank you.
So if you just say yes, I'll assume it's yes for both.
Or no.
Or no, exactly. Kalis?
Yes.
Athena?
Yes.
Baloktar? Rosnahan is yes. Chu? Yes. Dalal?
Yes, on the liquor license, no on the cannabis license.
Ellington?
Yes.
Ford? Chris?
Yes.
Gartland?
Yes.
Gasho? Yes. Harris?
Yes.
Button?
Yes.
Hirschberg?
Yes.
Kebak?
Yes.
Kalafarsky?
Yes.
Kinsella? Yes. Lavangia?
Yes.
Lakisico? Yeah. Levy? Sorry, Levy?
Yes on liquor, no on cannabis.
Mafia?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Nazaro?
Yes.
No T Vector?
Yes.
Nye?
Yes.
Rivas?
Yes.
Sherburne?
Yes.
Sigmund?
Yes.
Southworth?
Yes.
Song?
Yes.
Takahashi Real?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Zolkowitz?
Yes.
Motion stands.
Thank you. Next up will be Parks and Public Spaces.
Okay, thank you. Parks and Public Spaces has 2 resolutions tonight. I'd like to have them both deemed read.
So Dean,
And I'd like to bundle them.
bundled.
Thank you. So the first application is from the Madison Square Park Conservancy for what's called the Lush Fresh Cosmetics Giveaway, which is going to be held in the southwest gravel section of Madison Square Park on December 6th. So it actually happened already. Just keep that in mind. This is not, just as a reminder, the New York City law does not give us a whole lot of time to review these applications. We've asked several times and we put in our resolutions. or more for a 45-day period, but we don't have it. So there are times when we get applications and we don't have the time to vote on them before full board. But we heard this in committee before it happened. So the Madison Square Park Conservancy, which is the applicant, wants to have this Lush Fresh Cosmetics giveaway. As a reminder, with Madison Square Park Conservancy, they are contractually allowed by the city to have 4 marketing events per year. That's one of the ways they raise money. They do not get any money from the city for their program. This is the third of the four marketing events that they wanted to do. Setup began on December 5th, the day before, and ended that night, the night of the event. And what the event actually essentially is, it's a 1-day activation of a pop-up gift machine. You'll see it on the bottom of page 13. We put a visual in, which is about 9 feet tall. It simulates a gift box from Lush products. And 10 brand ambassadors gave out free bath bombs, fragrance samples, and gift cards. This was a relatively small event. There was no commercial signage. There was some filming, which they disclosed with their own signage. There was no amplified sound. There was no food. And then they received, the Conservancy did receive a sizable amount of money for this. With this, the Conservancy was proud to announce that they were even for the year. They were afraid that they were going to be running a loss this year, and with this, they actually will be even. So the committee was generally okay with the event. We did put a resolve in, as I said, asking for an extension to 45 days for all applications for us to review. But that being said, this was passed 16-0-0-0.
Thank you. Does anyone have a conflict of interest with respect to this application? Any questions to the resolution? Any comments? Next.
Okay, the second one was another event that already happened. It happened earlier this week on December 11th. It's in Bryant Park. An application from Dentsu and Marketing on behalf of Bailey's Original Irish Cream for a Bailey's Holiday Market Treat Bar. So the event took place on the 11th from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. In the Winter Chalet Bar area of the Bryant Park. It's a 10 by 10 activation area. We put a picture of it on page 16 of your packet. The activation area was for the distribution of 1-ounce samples of Bailey's Irish Cream in either hot chocolate or hot coffee, with customizable toppings, opening to the general public of legal drinking age. They did check identification cards to make sure that entry into the area or entry for the exhibit was for 21 and over. They were not keeping any information, so if they took your card, they weren't compiling the information from the barcode or anything like that. So they weren't storing any of that. There were scratch-off cards that they were going to distribute with discounts to the various Bryant Park Winter Village activities, such as the skating area, the igloos, and dry curling. They were bringing in additional sanitation assistance, so additional trash receptacles, recycling bins, etc. And they were trying to do this and to minimize the environmental impact. There was signage, but that would be used in a marketing material, but it was only for internal communications. Again, the committee deemed this generally okay. It did bring in a sizable amount of money to the park, so it was passed 16-0-0-0.
Thank you. Does anyone have a conflict of interest for this matter? Any questions? Nancy?
What drive for curling?
It's some sport that I think isn't curling an Olympic sport. I was on the school newspaper, so I'm not sure. I'm sure there's somebody else here that could probably explain it to you. I could probably on plastic. I could talk about, leads and things like that.
Any other questions? Any comments? Layla?
I'm going to vote against the Bailey's application. I think that the proposed model for this event is inappropriate. I don't think that serving liquor in such an open venue is a good idea, so I will vote against it.
Any other comments?
Can I make a comment on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have not had many alcoholic events. There have been events that have had alcohol within it. So for example, at Union Square, when they used to have Harvest in the square, they did have a wine tasting aspect of it. It was not a wine event. They did have wine tasting. If you recall about a few months ago, I think it was, when they had the Fancy Feast activation, where they turned it into a cat garden party or something. There was also wine in the VIP tent. We did have a wine brand activation at Bryant Park as part of with the movie a few years ago. That's when they roped off a sort of area for non-drinking. So there have been events, but there haven't been an event that was specifically put on by an alcoholic company specifically for liquor. So just to your point, but there have been events, sort of ancillary to it.
So I'm also going to go against that because I don't like any of the commercial events in the parks, recognizing that we do need those funds for it. But to be promoting any kind of product that is in any way harmful to people's health, I think it's very bad direction.
Other comments on Kurt?
The reason I'm gonna vote for it is that we need the funding from these commercial events to fund the parks, so they're open primarily because of these. I think it was Bryant Park that mentioned at the last one, that they just got in and made budget.
That was
Madison, right? Yeah, sorry. But both parks have expressed concerns about making their budget and how important these events are for them. So I think we should support them in that.
Other comments?
If I can just clarify very quickly, I am against the model of this event. I think the tasting is the part that I find really unpalatable, especially because it could also serve liquor to underage individuals. So as much as I may be on board with this particular brand or supporting a liquor business promoting their product tasting is I think inappropriate. This is why I'm voting against it.
We don't need to point counterpart, but I'll recognize you again.
Sure, thank you. But we did ask about underage drinking and they are carding and checking for that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we'll take the bundle to a vote.
Kalis,
Yes.
Brosnahan is yes. Chu,
Yes.
Delisle,
Yes.
Ellington,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Gartman,
Yes.
Gottschalk,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hirschberg,
Yes. Yes.
Hutton,
Yes.
Kabak,
Yes.
Kalafarsky.
Yes.
Kinsella.
Yes.
Lavangia,
Yes.
Lagisico,
Yes on one, no on two.
Levy,
Yes.
Mafia,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nazaro,
Yes.
Noti Victor,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Rivas,
Yes.
Shapiro. Is Tyler able to join us? Okay, everybody, Sherburne,
Yes.
Sigmund,
Yes.
Slutskin,
Yes.
Southworth,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes. Yes.
Takahashi Real,
Yes.
Who,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Zolkowitz.
Yes, I'm last, no, I'm dead.
Okay, next up, land use, housing and zoning, Leila.
All right, good evening, everyone. So we had one application for land use, housing and zoning. The site is One Penn Plaza. This is bounded by 7th Avenue and 8th Avenue, 33rd and 34th streets. This is an application for a certification pursuant to zoning resolution section 37-73, as well as a non-ULURP modification to a special permit. And all of this is to facilitate 3 open air cafes and kiosks within a public plaza and to facilitate design changes to said plaza. So those plazas, which are basically privately owned public spaces, bound the building known as One Penn Plaza that is located across Penn Station. These plazas have existed since the inception of the building. Some of them are bonus plazas, meaning that the developer received a bonus FAR in exchange for creating this open space, and a tiny bit is actually non-bonused, but it's really a small bit of it. The applicant typically has to come every 3 years to renew these certifications to continue to operate these open air spaces. In this particular instance, this applicant came to Community Board 5 in 2019 with alterations to the operations of these open air plazas. And at the time, we expressed support of some aspects of the proposal, while we had concerns about others. The concerns that we had at the time mostly revolved around the fact that, especially for the Western Plaza, the one that is towards 8th Avenue, is an area that really needs to be as fluid and open as possible. It's very heavily congested, lots of pedestrians. We also recognize that there is an element, according to the NYPD, of crime that is happening in the area, and eyes on the street are something that is important. At the time in 2019, we also recognized that access to public bathroom is an important amenity, and that this is something that should be included, and at the time it wasn't. So now the applicant is coming back to us. Fast forward, the plazas in question have not been open or operated since 2019 because there has been construction. So these areas that we're supposed to be able to use because it's a public amenity, because they got a bonus were not open and available to the public, to no fault of the applicant. But nonetheless, we haven't had the enjoyment of these areas. So now they're coming back. They want recertification, and in the course of this recertification, they want to make alterations to the open air cafes. In particular, they want to install more tables and chairs, especially on the Western Plaza, but also on the northern, sort of a mid-block alley arcade, as well as the southern plaza. And on the Western Plaza, they want to install 3 kiosks instead of 2. Initially, they wanted to put 2 kiosks, and the kiosks were tucked in a little nook that was actually that would leave a good open space and open flow for pedestrian traffic. They're proposing now to actually install those kiosks in the middle where they had a clear open path for pedestrian flow. So they want to install the 3 kiosks in the same continuum, and they want to install more tables and chairs. They still do not want to install public bathrooms or even provide access to an existing public bathroom. There is actually a public bathroom within One Penn. It's actually a very nice one. If anyone needs a bathroom, this is a good one to know. It is, I'm not totally sure it is ADA compliant. It is up a flight of stairs. There may be an elevator that actually leads to these bathrooms. But the applicant did not agree to make this space available or provide any signage indicating that there is a public bathroom that can be used in conjunction with these open air cafes. Furthermore, it is Community Board 5's policy to ask applicants who are proposing open air cafes to actually not require that this seating is reserved to paying customers. And most of the applicants actually abide by our requirement that basically, if you want to just sit and have a little bit of respite, maybe you can bring your own cup of coffee, or you just want to sit for a few minutes, you should be able to do so. While at the same time, certainly recognizing that the seating can be used for private commercial use by the kiosk or restaurant operators that are servicing these chairs and tables. In other instances, we've actually worked with applicants where they would actually give public access without a need to patronize the chairs and tables in off hours. So let's say that, this particular open air cafe opens mostly in the evening. Then the applicant would provide the tables and chairs in the morning when there is actually no commercial operation from the restaurant or kiosk. Once again, the applicant was not sympathetic to this requirement. So for all these reasons, we voted to deny the application, and the vote was unanimous, 12-0-0-0.
Thank you. The resolution is deemed read. Does anyone have a conflict of interest? Any questions?
I'm
Yeah.
totally supportive of the need for accessible public spaces. I'm curious, since they already got the benefit from it, when, like, from the FAR perspective, what consequences there are to them, given our recommendation?
Say that again, I didn't
I'm
understand
just
the
curious,
question.
like, if we recommend, given our recommendation, like, what consequences will the operator have as a result? Since it sounds like, they've gotten a lot of benefit already of operating the POPs.
Yeah, so, the recommendation is not really to say that, as a result of this recommendation, the open air cafe is going to close. Hopefully, the Department of City Planning that has jurisdiction over this application would compel them to provide, maybe relocate the kiosk in an area that is more sympathetic with, what constitutes good public ground, or compel them to provide access to a public bathroom. So, the idea of these recommendations is actually really to urge the agency that has, statutory power over it to compel the applicant to actually improve the application.
Thank you.
Any other
But
questions?
if I can just also clarify something, these particular open air, POPs, public plazas, I think it is also important to keep in mind that we're bound to lose them when the applicant develops those sites, because they're part of the plan for the redevelopment of Penn Station. And it is unclear actually under the state new zoning, the GPP, whether they would retain the density that they have gained through the city process in the 60s.
Other questions? Yeah.
I'm trying to understand the before and after. So what open air cafes exist today, and what did they propose changing and that we're voting on or voting against if we follow the resolution?
So they were granted open air cafes when the building was developed. It was operated with tables and chairs that were used for private use by restaurants or kiosks. They are coming back to us as part of the recertification, and they want additional chairs and tables, and they want additional kiosks.
So we'd be voting against additional chairs and tables and kiosks.
Correct, as well as the location of the kiosks, which is different from what they were proposing in 2019. And we're continuing to say that public access to a public bathroom should be provided. And once again, we're not saying that they should build a public bathroom on the plaza, but that an existing public bathroom should be made available to those who need it, and signage should be provided.
Other questions? Any comments? Sashi?
I guess just kind of sharing where I'm at on this one. I plan on voting yes for the denial. I personally don't have strong opinions about where the kiosk is, but I find it very disappointing that the applicant won't put up the signage about the public seating. It's a really beautiful plaza, and it's very unclear because of where the cafes are and where the seating is, where a person could sit and not have to feel compelled to purchase something, and where they would be compelled to purchase something, given that this is, part of our general guidelines and that it is a public place. I'm supportive of the work of the committee, so thanks so much.
Other comments?
Just one last, we need public bathrooms, so badly, and really the city should be doing that, and yet when we have these private developers getting these bonuses we could, ask him to it, and we don't get that, and so it's really problematic. I'm gonna get maybe on that.
Other comments? Yep.
So would the result of our resolution be to advocate removing chairs and tables?
Is that a comment?
Sorry,
Back
that's
to
more of a
question?
question. I'm just trying to understand what's happening.
You can answer.
Okay. We are saying that this number of chairs and tables is inadequate and that the location of the kiosks is inadequate and the lack of offering of this seating to the public is inadequate and that the lack of signage for a public bathroom is inadequate. And for those reasons, we're denying the application.
So just to explain my confusion, I thought you had mentioned that they added chairs and it's tables and chairs.
That's correct.
And you think there's not enough, so we should vote against what they did, which was adding more?
Now I'm confused. I don't understand your question.
They have added more chairs and tables and we're voting against what that proposal to add more.
They are proposing to add more tables and chairs for the private use of the kiosk and restaurant operators for private use solely. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Nancy?
And without the signage that we require stating that anyone can sit on any chair and table and does not have to order something. That's the key. They would not put up the signage. So you don't know where you can sit and where you can't sit. And that goes against our general guidelines for signage of public open spaces.
Other comments? Take it to a vote?
Payless,
Yes.
Rosnahan is yes, Chu,
Yes.
Dalal,
Yes.
Dawson. Not here, sorry, Ellington,
Yes.
Ford. Chris,
Yes.
Gartland,
Yes.
Gasha,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hirschberg,
Yes.
Hutton.
Yes.
K-Back,
Yeah.
Calafarsi.
Yes.
Kinsella. Yes. Logan Kia,
Yes.
Magisico.
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Mafia,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nazaro,
Yes.
Noti Victor,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Rivas,
Yes.
Sherburne,
Yes.
Sigmund,
Yes.
Slutskin,
Yes.
Southworth,
Yes.
Sung,
Yes.
Takahashi Ryo,
Yes.
Chu,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Zolkowitz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, landmarks, Leila.
All right, so we had a total of 6 applications. And I would like all the resolutions to be deemed read.
So Dean,
And I will bundle resolutions 1 to 5.
bundle.
Thank you. Okay, so the first one is 180 Fifth Avenue. This is an application for work on a landmark property within the Ladies Mile Historic District. This is for a storefront, signage, and lighting alterations. The building is located on the west side of Fifth Avenue between 22nd and 23rd Streets. It is across from the Flatiron Building. And the applicant is proposing to replace the storefront. The existing storefront is non-historic, it's actually not very pretty. And the applicant is proposing to actually build a storefront that is an entirely frameless storefront, or I should say was proposing an entirely frameless storefront. This is a type of use of materials that is not appropriate in a historic district. Our guidelines clearly state that percolite doors, which is the commercial name of these kinds of doors, is not appropriate. We shared our concerns and our objections with the applicant, and we actually told the applicant that if they were to revise their design, and use a framed type of storefront, we would be much more sympathetic. We also expressed concern about the use of material for the hardware. They were proposing a chrome, very shiny hardware that was very flashy and not really found so often in the district. We told them that a brushed finish that would be more muted would be more appropriate. The applicant went back to the drawing board the next day, submitted revised drawings with a framed storefront with brushed chrome hardware and an entirely and vastly improved proposal. They refiled with the Landmarks Preservation Commission. So the new design is basically the application. And we are now presenting to you an approval for an application for storefront, and the vote is 14,000.
Does anyone have a conflict of interest? Any questions? Any comments? Next.
All right, the next one is 608 Fifth Avenue. This is an application for proposed signage, flags, painting at the exterior windows, and storefront modifications. This is an individual landmark. The cross street is, let me see, it is across from Rockefeller Center, so it's I'm sorry, actually the cross street is not available. I'll make sure I provide that I'll make a minor edit, Marisa. The applicant is a famous retail store, and they are proposing to actually change the color palette of this storefront with a pretty shiny and flashy bronze-y paint. So it's not bronze, it's paint, but meant to look like bronze, but on the yellow side of bronze. They are also proposing to install a lot of signage, and they want to do pin-mounted signage, meaning that each letter, and the brand is only 4 letters, but they want to do a lot of signage. They want to install the signage with pin-mounted letters that would actually puncture the original marble that flanks the storefront. They are proposing to replace 2 existing American flags with banners with their brand, and they also want to install vinyl signage across the storefronts. This is actually a corner building, so frontage for the storefront is both on the avenue and the side streets, and it would be the same treatment, carrying around. We had concerns really about what I just underscored, the color of the paint, the mounting of the signage directly into the marble, as well as the amount of signage that was really we found it overwhelming. The applicant understood our concerns. We asked them if they would reconsider their design. They did reconsider the color of the storefront. So instead of using this flashy yellow color, they agreed to choose a sort of like patina bronze, like more like maroon, darker color. But at the same time, they did not agree to reconsider the type of mounting for the signage, the amount of signage, the size of the signage, which were the other salient concerns that we had. So we stay with a denial unless these modifications are made. It looks like the applicant is not agreeable to making any further modifications. If they do between now and the hearing with the LPC, the LPC would understand that it is now an approval, but it seems unlikely. So the recommendation is a denial unless these modifications are made, and the vote was 14,000.
Does anyone have a conflict of interest? Any questions? Any comments? Next.
All right, 222 Central Park South. This is a very prominent building on Central Park South, the Gainsborough Studio, built as artist studios. It's actually double floor apartment and art studios. The application is for the replacement of a window in apartment 9 something. So it is basically on the 9th floor. It's fairly high up. This building actually has come to us a number of times. They very unfortunately do their window replacement in a very piecemeal fashion. The application that we saw was really beautifully done. They did a great deal of research, really, sought the best craftsmanship possible, came up with some clever solutions on how to address some, engineering issues with the window itself, the framing of the window, the amount of glazing, as well as the mounting of the window within the existing opening. We were very pleased with what we saw. And so not only are we approving this application, but we are also urging the Landmarks Preservation Commission to use this application as a master plan, and short of the building agreeing to a master plan or LPC not having the bandwidth to work with the building to actually create one, to keep it on file as, this is what needs to happen moving forward. So when in the next unit wants to do a window replacement, LPC would strongly encourage any subsequent applications to mimic this particular one. And the vote was 14-0-0.
Does anyone have a conflict? Any questions? Any comments? Next.
Okay, the next one is the reconstruction of the West 85th Street playground. As you know, all the community boards that are abutting Central Park get to comment on anything that is happening in Central Park. Central Park is a scenic landmark, which means that everything in the park is landmarked. Any tree, any rock, any structure is landmark. Not to say that they come to us when they mow the lawn. But when they do major alterations, they do consult with all the community boards that are abutting. So although it's on 85th Street, which sounds far from us, because we are abutting, we get a chance to weigh in. The Central Park Conservancy is the sponsor of this proposal. They have been very good stewards of the park. The reconstruction is done with a great deal of research that has been done on the original playground. What they're proposing is a modern interpretation with modern equipment that meets all the safety standards, that is age appropriate. Overall, it is a very good proposal. They're also proposing to regrade the access to the playground from Central Park West in a way that is also clever and is going to provide a great deal of added accessibility. We were very satisfied with this application, and we voted to recommend approval 14-0-0-0.
Thank you. Does anybody have a conflict? Any questions? Any comments? Last one.
Okay, the last of the bundle, 160 Fifth Avenue. This is an application for a rooftop addition. This is in the Ladies Mouth Historic Building. The building is known also as the Mohawk Building, located on Fifth Avenue at the corner of 25th Street. It is on the on the southwest side of Fifth Avenue and 21st. It's a 9-story office loft, store and loft building, built in 1891 in a neo-Renaissance style. It's a prime example of the early phase of development in the district. And the applicant is proposing a rooftop addition. The rooftop addition would be set back from the parapet and would be minimally visible from a distance that, basically the visibility appears when you are in Madison Square Park. So, fairly far away. Given the minimal visibility and the quality of the addition itself, with good finishes, good materials used for the construction of the addition, including the brick cladding at the back of the structure, the retaining of the existing water tanks, which is a feature that is an important feature of this historic district. And the fact that the visible area is actually in a gray finish that blends with the background, the committee felt that it was acceptable and voted to recommend approval. The vote was still 14-0-0-0.
Does anyone have a conflict? Any questions on this one? Charles, you have a conflict or a question?
Sorry, yes, I have a question. I was wondering, I didn't get to raise my hand quick enough to the earlier the earlier application. Am I allowed to ask a question about the application?
We didn't vote on it, so you can.
Oh, thank you. I was just wondering about the playground. If you're talking about accessibility, I'm just wondering also if the playground itself is also going to be ADA compliant, so that children with disabilities can also enjoy the equipment, or any children with other sensory disabilities or things like that can feel included. That was my question.
Yes, our understanding is that now the Conservancy makes alterations and upgrades to playgrounds in such way that they use, the accessibility is very important, and so this one will be, yes, absolutely.
Okay, back to 165th. Charles, do you have a conflict?
Oh, I have no more questions. Sorry, I thought I lowered my hand. I apologize. Thanks.
Okay, great.
I have a question.
You have a question on 165th? Go ahead.
The resolution refers to a one-story enclosed space with a minimum of 150 seats. So I assume because it says enclosed space, all of the 150 or more seats are inside and not outside. There's no outside space here?
Yes, so yeah, the seating is actually enclosed. One thing that I should mention is that the addition will have retractable glass wall that will open up. So in summer, they will have the ability to open up one side of this addition onto the open space. So, there will be, an addition and a wraparound deck around it. And the seating refers to what is inside this addition, not what would be on the deck.
Other questions? Is that BJ?
Yeah, just going back to the 85th Street playground, is that part of our district? It's not part of our district, so why are we?
Central Park is.
Central, so because it's.
All of Central Park is
not
part
the
of it.
85th Street.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I think we're on 165th Avenue now. So if there are any questions about that.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question on that.
Yep.
So, forgive me for not understanding the landmark committee, but your area of purview is simply the building and the landmark. It's not the use of the space. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yes. So really, the question that is in front of us for this rooftop addition is, if you do this alteration to the building, are you altering its historic character? Are you changing its nature? Are you defacing it? And the permit that they're seeking is a certificate of appropriateness. So really, the question that is in front of us is it appropriate? We're not talking about the use. We're not talking about who the owner or applicant is, and I'm very careful not to say, it's the brand this or the company that. We don't really, we shouldn't base our recommendation on the use. This is not something that we consider in the Landmarks Committee.
Thank you.
Other questions on 165th? Any comments on 165th? Okay, we'll take the bundle to a vote.
Kalis,
Yes.
Roseanne is yes. Chu,
Yes.
Dalal,
Yes.
Ellington,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Garland,
Yes.
Kasha.
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Hutton.
Yes.
Quebec.
Yeah.
California.
Yes.
Kinsella.
Yes.
Lavangia.
Yes.
Magisico.
Yes.
Levy.
Yes.
Mafia.
Yes.
Marks.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Nazaro.
Yes.
Noti Victor.
Yes.
Nine.
Yes.
Rivas.
Yes.
Sherburne.
Yes.
Sigmund.
Yes.
Slutskin.
Yes.
Southworth.
Yes.
Song.
Yes.
Takahashi Real.
Yes.
Shu.
Yes.
Young.
Yes.
Zukowitz.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next.
Okay.
Also, I wanted to vote yes. I wasn't called.
Sorry, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, so the last application is an application for 165th Avenue and 162 Fifth Avenue. And it is an application for a glass sky bridge to connect both buildings. Both buildings are occupied by the same entity, and the entity is the applicant. So as I already described, 165th Avenue is a 9-story office store and loft building, known as the Mohawk Building. 162 Fifth Avenue is located across the street, from 21st Street, on the northwest corner of Fifth Avenue and 21st Street. The 162 Fifth Avenue was built a little bit later, and in a let's see, in a Beaux-Arts style, so it's a little bit more ornate. The applicant is proposing to the construction of a glass sky bridge over West 21st Street that would connect both buildings. The bottom of the bridge would be cast fiberglass, and the enclosed sides and top would be very thick glass, the same type of glass that you may see in the Apple stores. The bridge would be illuminated at night with lighting that would be located at the bottom of the bridge. The bridge would be very slender, very lightweight, very modern and contemporary in style. And the committee spent a good amount of time discussing the application, but found that it is very contemporary, futuristic, and not contextual with the district, and therefore recommended denial of a certificate of appropriateness for a bridge between 160 and 162 Fifth Avenue. And the vote was 9-5-0-0.
Does anyone have a conflict of interest? Are there any questions to the resolution? Samir?
It says that the bridge is designed to support stadium movement. What does stadium movement mean?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
But I think that it's some industry standard that, it can sustain a great load of weight.
Thank you.
Did you want to comment, Fred?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially, it's a pounds per square foot, like metric.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions? Any comments? David?
I'm supportive of where the committee came out on this from a landmarks perspective. I'm concerned from a DOT license perspective on this because the applicant owns one building. And by the time this bridge is completed, they'll have a lease term of something around 20 years on the building, I guess, to the north. And so you're actually in a situation where they could build this thing with a significant life and then choose to separate their interests between the two buildings, leaving us with a bridge that connects two buildings that don't have anything to do with their occupancy. So I recognize that that's not the subject of tonight's vote, but I'd be concerned the DOT should take into account that if they're going to leave one or the other of these buildings, they ought to take the bridge with them when they go.
Yeah,
And
so I can address this, Nick. Thank you for the question, David. So the first step for this particular construction, and this particular structure is, to go to the Landmarks Preservation Commission. But there is a second step in the approval process for this element that will be in front of the Department of City Planning. So they need to get a revocable consent. And these questions then will be raised, and it will be a use issue in terms of DOT, in terms of land use, in terms of like being over a street. There is another level of regulatory review that would need to go. But the first step, their first stop is to figure out whether it is appropriate. And if LPC says that it is not appropriate, then it stops the process, which is not to say that, LPC could say, yes, it is appropriate. And then DCP and DOT may actually, disagree. And but there is definitely another layer of review for this particular element.
Any other questions?
Questions or comments?
Who's that?
Julie.
Hi, Julie. Julie, you have a question?
Or comment, right?
Okay, I have one question before we move to comments. How much original fabric needs to be removed for this?
So, the bridge itself is actually pretty voluminous. You need to be able to accommodate the construction of the bridge, the anchoring of the bridge into the buildings, so that it would provide passageway for humans. So it is removing a good chunk of the cornice on 160 Fifth Avenue, and it is removing 2 windows, masonry, terracotta, metal spandrel, as well as the cornice at 162. A lot of material has to go and be replaced with different materials to provide structural strength to anchor the bridge. So, the alteration is not simply the footprint of the bridge itself, but actually they have to remove a good chunk of historic material around it so that they can properly anchor it. So the short of it is that the impact to these 2 buildings is actually very substantial.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, I'll take comments. Joel?
Yeah, I voted in the minority committee in favor of this Sky Bridge. And we're just speaking to it in terms of landmarks. There are many other issues discussed. But in terms of landmarks, I thought it was very respectful to the existing building. And I also thought it was very much in character with the historic nature of this district, which features so much architectural and engineering innovation. And this is very much that. So I will vote in support again of the Sky Bridge.
Other comments?
So I just recently took a walk with a historic conservationist, and they told around my neighborhood in Murray Hill, and they told me, like, once you remove a significant chunk of stuff from a historic building, that's it, you're done and dusted in terms of historic, preserving that historically. So to your point, like, once you take a big chunk of it, it's not even worth preserving. And I think something else they said is, like, less than 4% of the city is preserved. And we have this Ladies Mile district, which is a historic district. To add these futuristic things, I don't think is appropriate for something that, a very small piece of the city that we've been able to preserve. I personally don't think it's appropriate.
Other comments? Bill?
Yeah, hi. I went to see these buildings today, and I strongly support the committee's rejection of this application. I think it's a real defacement to these buildings, which are in some ways the prototypical buildings of that area and of that neighborhood. And I think it's a defacement in 2 ways, both the removal of the material and the addition of the modern structure, I think are very inappropriate. So I support this denial of this resolution.
Other comments? Yeah. Zona?
Yeah. I will be voting in support of the committee with the recommendation. That said, I think it's important for cities to change and be accommodating of the uses within them. I think it's like very aesthetically pleasing to juxtapose new types of design with the incumbent fabric, and you see case studies in other cities all the time of these very modernist bridges, like in London with the Bridge of Aspiration in Covent Garden, the British Museum, like all adding to the fabric over time. So conceptually, I think it would be like a positive visually for the city, but we'll be voting with the committee.
Other comments? Aaron?
So I just want to say I support the landmarks resolution on this issue, and from a neo-Renaissance perspective or the Beaux-Arts perspective, it's simply not contextual with the rest of the Ladies Mile Historic District. Even though it might be a wonderful futuristic design, it doesn't just belong in that block, in that contract.
I plan on voting no on the denial, for a couple of reasons. One, when we think about when I think about what I'm voting on, there's our guidelines and stipulations for what we think is congruent with the fabric of the city. That's also what LPC is going to be weighing in on. That's in the city charter. That is their job, is to focus on what is congruent. As a community board in the city charter, our job is to bring in public comment and bring in not just the consideration of what is congruent, but also the needs of the city. And as residents of the city, we understand the needs of the city, and that's why we have public comment for people calling in, writing in, and sharing their perspective as well. For this particular one, I'm really convinced by the public comment from local nonprofit leaders saying that this is an important use for them, and I think it's a good balance with the current fabric. One of the other things that the committee was really batting around was like, does this set a precedent? How does this, how do we compare this with like the resos about the windows that we just talked about? I think this one is really different than the resolution about the windows on a store. We didn't have anybody calling in to tell us that they had objections about the windows on the store, but we had a lot of people calling in saying that this was a really important use for the public, for the community, and for the field. So I am in favor of the bridge.
If I can just make one quick comment, Nick, I just want to mention that since this application came through the Landmarks Committee of CB5, CB5 has received numerous letters from residents of the district opposing this particular application. They were not present and engaged during the meeting, which suggests that outreach had not been done. Outreach is generally and notification generally is the responsibility of the applicant. So it looks like they did not reach out to the adjacent buildings. They may have done the mandatory posting, but typically for an application of this magnitude, it is good practice to actually go a little bit above and beyond. For the record, the public session of this particular meeting saw a large number of residents who object to the Sky Bridge. So, to the point that was just raised, I think that, it falls within our responsibility to echo and support the view of our community.
I will be voting in favor of this application. I think that the applicant gave a great presentation in the Landmarks Committee meeting. It was very well done. It was very well communicated. And I think the bridge is incredibly well designed and sort of sympathetic. However, I don't think that use has a place in a historic district. I think that to some of the points made previously, we have such a small portion of our city that is reserved as a historic district. And so elements of juxtaposition can occur in other locations, anywhere else in the city. That's sort of what the rest of the city is for, in my view. And so I just don't think that bridge, particularly with the way it interacts with the historic fabric of the buildings, is appropriate. And so I will be voting in favor of the committee's denial.
Nancy?
Yeah, I will also support the committee's resolution. I'm worried about the precedent this sets. It's beginning to tear away at the wonderful quality we have of this historic district. I think the bridge is a great idea, but not at this location, not with these buildings, not in this district. So I'm voting in support of it.
Any other comments?
I am going to vote against, the resolution because I think we should pave the bridge. I am persuaded by some of the comments about how innovation is important, and how, new and old can be juxtaposed well together. And I do appreciate the concerns that not much of the city's, square footage is protected historic areas. But if you look at wealthier, more politically connected parts of the city, you'll see much, much higher rates of landmarking. I am concerned that landmarking is often used by certain communities to sort of block change and prevent new things from happening, especially if they're politically connected. So.
Samir?
Yeah, just wanted to make two quick comments, just to follow up on Ankur's point. Even though only 3% of New York City is landmarked, 27% of Manhattan is landmarked. So to say that we have plenty of room to do it elsewhere, I really agree with. And then second, on the SLOT committee, we do a lot of outreach to neighbors. And there are a lot of reasons that people might not come. They might be busy, they might have children, they might just not, have the time or the headspace to do so. And I think to assume that it's because they were not reached out to, I think is a little bit unfair.
Julie?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Speak up.
I have to vote against the committee, and I just want to explain why, because I deeply respect all the work that the Landmarks Committee does. But I've worked with Cass and his team at Higgins and Quaker.
Speak up.
Stand up, stand up.
I worked with Cass and his team recently, and I think they do amazing work. They really respect and revere these historic buildings in our city. And I've seen the work that they've done across New York, and we hired them we respect their expertise. So unfortunately for this application, I'm gonna have to vote against it. I think.
Are you saying that you're conflicted? Because you work with them? I didn't understand.
Is that a conflict? I mean, they're our consultants.
Yeah, that might be a conflict.
That could be a conflict.
I think so. But that's up for you to decide.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the application very closely, but there could be a way to do it that could respect the historical fabric and strengthen the neighborhood.
Just one comment on community engagement. I think we did hear from a number of folks who appreciate the work that's being done by the applicant. So there were also comments supportive in addition to neighbors who felt elsewise, but there were certainly both sides that we heard in public session.
Okay, Mike? Mike, did you have your hand up? I thought I saw a hand over here.
Oh.
Mike?
I mean, I just looked at a rendering to me and it looks kind of ridiculous and out of place. So I would have to support the committee's work. I'm also, from the other perspective that we're not really addressing today, is that I don't really understand the need for this or why we would want to let this particular nonprofit do this type of thing. It just sets the standard of anyone can do it anywhere if they have two buildings across the street. So for those two reasons, I'm supporting the committee.
EJ.
I'll be voting to support the committee's resolution. I love sky bridges. I love juxtaposition between the new and the old, but as was said before, that's what should be happening in the rest of the city. This area was essentially landmarked, and attaching modern glass is exactly the opposite of what you're supposed to do to landmark. It's not appropriate. Permanently alters landmark, which is the opposite of the point of landmarking. And so I'll be supporting this.
Kevin.
I will support the committee as well, but I think it needs to be said, I know that we normally in these situations do not take into account who the applicant is, but I think that we need to recognize the good that the Simons Foundation does on behalf of so many good projects that we do, and scientific research and physical research, quantum research, etc. We're more than lucky to have them be in our district. And so I will be voting against their project, but their presence in our district needs to be acknowledged.
Certainly the resolution is not personal. Kurt.
Just on that, because I know there's a comment about conflict of interest or anything, just, the New York City website goes into it. If you have a personal and direct economic gain.
Is this a question about the resolution? You don't have to correct the conflict.
Okay. Did you ask if it was a conflict?
I asked her if she thought she was conflicted.
Okay.
That's how it works. Renee?
No, I was just actually going to make Kevin's point that, just acknowledging that, this is not, I think the Simons Foundation is absolutely wonderful and it's just separating. So, yeah.
Tony?
Agreed. We love having them in our neighborhood. Our only role tonight is to focus on what we should, what we should do from a landmarks perspective. With our landmarks hat on, it's whether or not this is appropriate for a very, very important historic district like Ladies Mile. Is it appropriate? Is it contextual? And unfortunately, it is not. Excuse me, it is not.
Okay. Take this to a vote. Oh, wait. No, go ahead.
Bayless,
Yes.
Bosnian is yes, Chu? No. Dalal,
No.
Ellington,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Gartland,
Yes.
Gashaw,
Yes.
Harris,
No.
Hirschberg.
Yeah.
Hutton,
Yes.
Kabak,
Yeah.
Kaliforski.
Yes.
Kinsella.
Yes.
Lavangia,
Yeah, sorry, no.
Lagisico,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Mafia,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Miller,
No.
Nazaro,
No.
Noti Victor,
No.
Nye,
Yes.
Rivas,
Yes.
Sherburne,
Yes.
Sigmund,
Yes.
Slutsky.
Yeah.
Southworth,
Yes.
Song,
No.
Takahashi Real,
No.
Shu,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Zolkowitz.
No.
Okay, next up, budget, education, city services, Renee.
Thanks, Nick. We had one resolution. May I deem it read?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This resolution involves the closure of Mount Sinai Beth Israel. I'd like to give the committee some background. Beth Israel, the hospital was founded in 1889 and it was primarily for Jewish immigrants. And in 1929, it moved to its current location, which is on 16th Street and First Avenue. As of 2010, Beth Israel Hospital had residency training programs, meaning they were training young physicians. They had enough patients in almost every major field, including anesthesiology, ER, urology, dermatology, psychology, internal medicine, surgery, onto laryngology, oral and maxillofacial surgery, radiology, family medicine, obstetrics, gynecology, neurosurgery, ophthalmology, pathology, podology. I went through all that, and I'm telling you that because 3 years later, in 2013, Beth Israel merged with Mount Sinai, and then a mere 3 years later, in 2016, Mount Sinai announced they have to downsize and restructure. They don't really have patients. They really aren't making any money. So, sort of in that 6-year span, that's what happened. They said that, healthcare really changed. The beds weren't needed. They're losing money. They were going to reduce the 696 beds in the hospital to 70 beds. They were going to create a state-of-the-art hospital and reduce their psych beds way down and create a wraparound psych services at Rivington House. This board at that time was not in favor of that downsizing. And we were involved in protesting that. But before the plan was effective, the pandemic came. And we know what happened there. We realized that, in fact, hospital beds are needed. But by 2021, Mount Sinai announced that the plan was not going to go forward. And then in 2023, they announced again that Mount Sinai is going to close in the summer. But just over Thanksgiving, they moved the schedule for the closure up. And right now it seems to be a bit of a moving target because they announced with very little notice that it's likely to be much sooner. A few things that we know about Mount Sinai, they've closed the following services from there. obstetrics, pediatrics, neonatology, orthopedics, back surgery, joint replacement, hand surgery, cardiac surgery, thoracic surgery, neurosurgery, weight loss surgery, gynecology, head and neck. I can keep on going on and on, ENT, ERCP, whatever that is, interventional radiology, psychiatry was downsized, and yet they claim that didn't affect the fact that they don't have any patients. We also know when we look at their closure plan that some of the data just doesn't make sense. We've asked them a lot of questions about that, and they told us that they would get back to us. We also know that there's a mental health crisis in New York City, but they seem to insist that we don't need those beds. We also know that ambulatory care centers are no replacement for 24/7 emergency rooms. We know that there is Bellevue up the road and NYU, but we also know, as Councilmember Rivera said, that there are 400,000 residents downtown, no hospitals below 23rd Street, so the waits are going to be horrendous for hospitals that are already overcrowded. Congestion is growing, ambulances are going to have to travel further. Could be in the difference between life and death. The stroke center at BI is closing. I'm just going to give you a little overview of process. It's the State Department of Health who controls this entire thing. The question is, can the hospital just close? Surprisingly, that answer may be yes. There appears to be more control over mergers and downsizing than closures. A facility closure, they have to file plans with the Department of Health. It's not clear whether and then the Department of Health gives an approval of that. It's not clear whether this approval has been obtained in this case. We're not clear. So our resolution calls for the Department of Health and our electeds to get involved and investigate this piece. At the end of 2021, Governor Hochul also signed legislation that updated when you get a certificate of need, that's when things merge, hospital and facilities merge. She required that you need a health equity assessment, and that's what that is it's kind of like an environmental impact statement, but for healthcare facilities. And if there's a merger, which things are a little murky here with Mount Sinai, it's not completely clear. They're saying they're merging their license with New York Pioneer and their hospital in Kings Highway, so we're not exactly clear what's going on. But if that is in fact the case, they may require a health equity assessment. We're not quite clear, but we're asking in our resolution for the Department of Health and all our electeds to get involved. It looks like it's happening. You heard that here tonight. So that basically in a nutshell is the background. Our resolution, you have read it, our ask, and it was unanimous, 10-0-0-0. And I just want to give a shout out to Charles. He did his first resolution for the committee. He's fairly new to Bex and to our committee. So shout out to Charles and I. And that's it.
Thank you. Does anyone have a conflict of interest? Any questions to the resolution? Any comments? Michael.
I'd just like to announce to the committee that this particular hospital has a special meaning to me. In 1941, I was born in that hospital, and I've lived in a neighborhood close by for my entire 25 years.
I just want to say great job, Renee.
Yes. Thank you.
Renee, Leila.
I know, we're like twin sisters. A few things. So I also have a deep connection to this hospital. This is where I gave birth to my first son. But actually my comment is not about nostalgia. My comment is about the fact that this community board is about to embark on two massive land use actions. One of them that would see the conversion of 47 blocks in our district from strictly manufacturing or commercial use to residential. We are going to flood our neighborhood with housing, and this is a fantastic news. At the same time, these folks that we're telling to come and move in CD5 will not have proper access to healthcare and to hospital care. And this is absolutely unacceptable. And I am calling on the city and the state to do a better job at zoning and planning. And I'm calling on all the housing advocates to not only have advocate for housing, but to advocate for quality housing. And quality housing comes with services. It comes with adequate schools. It comes with adequate access to healthcare and hospital care. The closing of this facility is going to create a medical desert in an area that is already gone through desertification with the closing of St. Vincent's Hospital. People are literally dying. People are, and we know it because we know friends who died because they did not make it to the ER in time as they were going through cardiac distress. This is absolutely unconscionable for the State Department of Health to let that happen. It is extremely disappointing from Mount Sinai to actually do these maneuvers where very obviously they are outsourcing or opening ambulatory services that are taking patients away. They're basically cannibalizing themselves so that they can then make the case that the hospital is no longer profitable and that, oh, gee, they need to close it. The problem is, if only we were getting the same kind of care from these ambulatory services, we would be fine. We would square even, but we're not. We're going to go from an ER open 24/7 to a facility that is open from 9 to 5. Have you heard of anyone who times their emergency? I haven't. So this is really serious. We need to be very forceful. I applaud the committee for the work that they have done. It's been really, tremendous and very encouraging and energizing to see the amount of research that has gone into this particular issue. And I urge the committee to reach out to the Attorney General. The Attorney General plays a role because Beth Israel is a non-for-profit. So there's another layer of regulatory process in there, so that maybe another hospital provider can actually take over rather than closing Mount Sinai, Beth Israel. And quite frankly, if Mount Sinai is bad at managing hospitals, it should be on them. And rather than closing the hospital, they should sell it, so that a better healthcare operator can actually provide the much needed hospital care that this community needs and deserves.
Who wants to follow that? Cool.
Bravo, Leila. We need to be tremendously energetic. This is an urgent issue. Bravo, Renee. Terrific report. And to Charles for his first resume, another movie. I'm in the streets on a regular basis with the Street Homeless Advocacy Project initiated by Nolan Siegel and Bob Hayes and others long active in this field. And we are seeing in the streets people with tremendous need for mental health services. Mount Sinai, Beth Israel, is one of the few places that have psychiatric beds, and we don't have anywhere near what we need. To lose them is a horror beyond all the horrors we've talked about today. So yes, this is urgent. We have to be as energetic as possible with all our electeds and in the street. Thank you.
Charles.
Hi. So not only does it not make sense for this hospital to close down because we have so much congestion in the city, just think about the importance of an ambulance taking someone who's having a stroke or a heart attack to a hospital. The minutes that go by is life-changing, and it's really important that New Yorkers have access to an emergency room in their communities. But, thinking about it and just reflecting on what was going on, but the people at Beth Israel, the ones who want to close it down, they blamed a lot on Medicaid. Oh, Medicaid's not paying us. Medicaid's not paying us. And it makes you wonder what's happening in our neighborhood, in our communities, is we've got all these urgent cares like City MD who don't take Medicaid. So if I have a medical issue, I can't go to City MD, even though there's tons around, our community. And as you said, these urgent cares are 9 to 5. So if you think about it, I think it's a slow push of poor people out of our communities, flush them out, have housing for, under the disguise of affordable, but affordable is very vague. Affordable to one person is not affordable to, it could not be affordable to another person. It's all depending on the person's income. So I think what's happening is slowly we're flushing out people who are on Medicaid, people on SSI, people who are on SSDI and things like that. And the way they do it is to say, oh, sorry, Medicaid, it's their fault. Medicaid don't pay us. And, it's an old hospital. We can't keep it up. And, but look at all the ambulatory centers we have. Oh, but we don't take Medicaid that often. And I do think it is a push of our very vulnerable population out of these neighborhoods and putting it in with more middle class people and making having housing and just labeling anything affordable. And that's what I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. Ankur?
I wanted to say I agree with what Layla had said earlier. I do try to advocate for housing when it comes up, and it's true that the housing should be livable. It should be near things like hospitals, and we should support our hospitals. It goes both ways. Midtown has so many wonderful amenities, including good hospitals. We should have housing here, and we should make sure the housing is near things that make housing livable. Thanks.
Catherine?
Yes. So the little secret is I actually do work in healthcare, but I really want to stress that health equity is really about where we live, work, play, get well, worship. All those things work together to make housing work. And so perhaps we can be a little more strategic as a community board in engaging, the housing, the education to come up with some more suggestions so that this hospital just doesn't close, but perhaps Health and Hospitals Corporation, those engaged and invested already in health in the city can take a hold of the situation so that we still have healthcare in this part of the city where people live across, I believe in health across lifespan. That's one of the gems of this city, that it's a city that holds people across lifespan from pediatric to geriatric, so that there is a need and that we should be able to find a way to have new zoning for health that's built into the affordable housing plans, that's built into the infrastructure of the city, whether we're talking about transportation or public spaces, that we should all be looking, because at one point or another, whether you're being born in the hospital in 1941 or you're seeing your last days in a palliative care unit, you're going to need a medical center. You're going to need a clinical team in person. So I just really wanted to add that.
Thank you. Mary?
Yeah, I just wanted to say great work to the committee and to Charles. I completely agree with everything that was said. During the pandemic, it was very clear that we are under hospitaled because we've just been closing too many, and I don't think we can let this one close. So I'm looking forward to voting yes on this resolution.
Anything else? Mary?
Yeah, I'll just say really quickly so folks know that we couldn't even get a straight answer to the most basic questions from the people at Beth Israel. Like, where are we with the state process in terms of this closure? Or how many psych beds did you have before COVID? How many psych beds do you have now? How many psych beds are you saying that you're actually going to put somewhere else? So I'm really happy. It seems like everybody is really rallying behind. We lost St. Vincent's, we can't lose Mount Sinai.
Anything else?
If I may, Nick, we're going to continue to work, and we're also working with other community boards going forward. So this is the beginning for us on this issue, not the end.
I think we can take this to a vote.
Bayless?
Yes.
Brosnahan is yes. Chu?
Yes.
Dalal?
Yes.
Ellington?
Yes.
Ford?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Garland?
Yes.
Gashaw?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Hirschberg? Button?
Yes.
Quebec?
Yeah.
Kalafarsky?
Yeah.
Kinsella?
Yes.
Lavangia?
Yes.
Sagistico?
Yeah.
Levy?
Yes.
Mafia?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Nazaro?
Yes.
Noti Victor?
Yes.
Nye?
Yes.
Rivas?
Yes.
Sherburne?
Yes.
Sigmund?
Yes.
Slutskin?
Yes.
Southworth?
Yes.
Sung?
Yes.
Takahashi Real?
She's working with the code.
Okay,
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Zolkowitz?
Yes.
Okay, don't pack up. After the public session, we will have one more vote during executive session. So now is the public session of this meeting. Anyone from the public like to address the board on any new business? Anything new from the public? I'll get you, Mike. Okay, Michael?
So three things. As you know, I do tours in the garment district and I walk around and as I said before, one of the biggest apologies that I have to make when I'm on 36th Street is to apologize to people from Oklahoma and New Zealand about what's going on the streets. If you want to see it up close and take one of my tours. Number two, if we get another request to put a Bailey's type, I think.
Michael, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. You can't address anything that we've already discussed. That conversation is closed because we've already voted.
Okay. Just for the next one. We get another one. Bailey's.
I think you had.
Okay, I said that at our meeting as well. The third thing, I just heard that Miriam, I heard that's tonight, is out of the hospital. I'm gonna try and get a hold of her at home this evening when I get home. But that's good news if it's upheld, I can find out.
Thank you. Any other new business for the public session? Okay, that concludes the full board meeting. At this time, I'll be calling an executive session to discuss a personnel matter of the board. During the executive session, we will be turning off the video. We will discontinue the recording and only members of the full board will be able to participate. So good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us.